Flawedcast episode 261, Distracted. You will never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. Winston Churchill.
Flawedcast, get in the arena.
All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, all of our esteemed Flawedcast listeners. Want to welcome and thank everybody back to a brand new, fun-filled, thought-provoking episode of Flawedcast. I have my partner in crime, Mr. Tim, with me today. Tim, how goes it?
Mr. William, goes the direction we send it, so everything is going proper.
Okay, good. Well, that's what we want to hear. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I have to say that people really like the Bigfoot episode.
Well, you can sign me up for that.
Well, the numbers on that have been like stratospheric. I'm just really impressed with how many people out there are true believers. So very, very interesting.
Well, I think to not believe in something, you'd have to be a moron. We just don't know what we see. So
right.
It's really not about being a believer. It's about understanding what the heck are we looking at? What the heck are they videoing? And no one knows because we really haven't been able to ask them, like, who are you?
Right. Yeah. Well, like the title said, I know what I saw, but I don't know what I saw.
Right.
So we just want to thank you guys for tuning in and all that fun stuff. And we're going to thank you in advance for tuning in this episode. Please share, please subscribe, follow, leave a 5-star review. All that stuff helps. You can find us anywhere podcasts are. Just search Flawedcast, CLE, Apple, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor.fm. You can find us on the video platform Rumble. That's under Flawed Inc. You can also find us on the Project Mockingbird social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Getter, Gab, Parler. We are now on Threads. That is all under Flawed Inc. In the description of this episode, there's a link to pick up a copy of my book, Smith's Heart of Man Repair Manual, and our email is flawedinccle@gmail.com. Questions, comments, or concerns, send them that way. But without any further ado, Tim, this is your second favorite time of the episode, so let's grip it and rip it.
Okay, everyone, please take your right hand, place it over your left heart, and repeat after us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Tim, you're at the helm this week. Let's get after it.
Well, to every listener that is curious about what does distracted mean, we're going to explain the crazy process that Mr. William and I use to put a podcast together is the week before we say, hey, what has God been sharing with you? What are you hearing? What do you think for next week's podcast?
What are you observing?
That's right.
What's being highlighted?
Right.
Yeah.
And what do you feel like God would have us to do? It's never, hey, I think if we talk about Sasquatch, that's going to get a lot of listens. Let's do it.
Not that
right?
smart.
We've never done that.
No, yeah, I'm not that
smart. So
smart.
last week, in discussing with Mr. William, it was Mr. Tim's responsibility to take a direction from God and say, hey, how do you feel about this? Right? So in complete honesty and transparency, which is how we operate together in this podcast, as late as yesterday morning when I called Mr. William and was very honest with him, I shared with him, I don't know what God is saying to me to talk about with this podcast. I am not hearing anything. I am not being led in any direction. It's total silence. I don't like that. That is a concerning factor in my relationship with Jesus when I know something's not right. Because we know everything is right with God and we know everything is right with Jesus, I believe you and I both have accepted that if something's wrong in my relationship with him, he doesn't need to fix anything about himself.
Right. Yeah. He's perfect.
Yes. So knowing that I was not hearing, that my spirit ears were deaf, was so concerning that I said, you know, Mr. William, I don't necessarily think that I am the only Christian that desires to hear from God that is having a deaf ear right now. Why don't we talk about how I don't know what to talk about in the podcast? Is that not how this started?
Yeah, exactly.
And Mr. Williams said, I believe that that is fascinating. I think that that is what we need to go with. And so in the process of understanding, I wanted to talk about me not hearing from God, me hearing silence, yet desiring direction. I came upon a story in the Bible that I have always seen myself as one of these Bible characters, but now in this story, I had switched and I had become the person I always taught, preached, thought, talked about. I don't want to be like that. I'm not going to be that person. And here I am. And I converted into the wrong character in this story. Would you like to hear the story, Mr. William?
I would.
The story is found in Luke chapter 10, and it begins in verse 38. It's the story of Mary and Martha, the two sisters of Lazarus. I know you're familiar with them.
Yes, not personally, but the story.
Yeah, I've never met them. But I've always tried to be like one of them, and I think the listeners will figure out which one as I read.
Sure.
Now it happened as they went, meaning the disciples and Jesus. They went and entered into a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. She had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his words. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore, tell her to help me. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part, which will not be taken away from her. I always fashioned myself as a Mary man, the one that chose to let all things go to simply have closeness and intimacy with Jesus, not just in proximity, but in the words that he spoke. The closer that she was to him, the clearer that she could hear him. I always wanted to hear Jesus speak to me clearly. I've always wanted the Holy Spirit to speak to me clearly. And when I entered into this phase where I wasn't hearing and I wasn't being led and I wasn't being guided, it concerned me, because that's the danger of that, is that you leave a God idea and enter into a good idea. You lose a Jesus direction, a Jesus commandment, and you move into a Tim direction. And that's a dangerous place. And the thing about this story is, Martha was desiring a good thing, as we talked about. It wasn't that she was doing bad. It wasn't that she was desiring bad. Because Lazarus and his two sisters, they believed Jesus was the Messiah. They believed that Jesus was the King of the Jews, was the Son of God. They got that picture. But it was in knowing that, in believing that, that Martha desired so heavily to make the atmosphere perfect. She desired so heavily to make Jesus comfortable and adorned. She wanted everything right everything proper. She wanted to show how you treat a king, how the Messiah should be treated. And she was serving, and she was taking care of needs and desires, and she was making comfort something that she thought was important to Jesus. So she was doing a good thing. Mary was doing the right thing. And I've wondered how many times, just like me, I've desired to do a good thing, and it's come from a good place, and I have a good heart. But in doing that, I've been distracted, and I've lost sight to, as Jesus says, Martha, Martha. He says her name twice. And if we know anything about the culture of that time, if we know anything about Jesus's teachings, when he says something twice, it's a point of emphasis. It's an endearing thing. It's a I love you thing. It's a Abba Father. It's a daddy thing. My daughter, I love you so much. But he is stressing to her, this is a very important thing that I am getting ready to say. I'm not just referring to you as Martha. I'm expressing to you the importance that you need to understand. You are troubled, and you are troubled about many things. And Mary is the one that doesn't only need to be rebuked, but needs to serve as the example to everyone of choosing the important thing, of choosing the everlasting thing. And so what has happened to me, and then we're going to allow you to explain from your insight how it's easily something that can happen to anyone, is that I desire so much to have a word. I desire so much to have a substantive teaching or thought or something to help, something to guide, something to inspire, right? To bring change, that my eyes seem to be searching everything that is happening in this world right now, everything that I see, everything that concerns me. And there's so much that is happening that I myself forgot. The most important thing is not to look at the evil. It's not to see the lies. It's not to warn people about all of these things, but individually, in my life, the most important thing is to always have, protect, and put first the intimacy, the sitting at the feet, pulling away from all of the studying about world events and current events and U.S. wars with Iran. Nothing needs to happen in my life until, first of all, I guard and I cherish the example that Martha set that says all of that other stuff can be dealt with. But the most important thing now is I don't always have Jesus in my home. He's not always going to be here. This is a special moment, a unique moment where all of the serving, all of the taking care of things, that can wait. Because right now I have the Messiah here. I will choose to let all of that go, and I will just take in this moment. I will take him in. I will prioritize him. And I, like all that have the potential, chose a good thing, but not the right thing. And that was priority and guarding and establishing, first and foremost, above all other things that are happening everywhere in this world, in my life, the most important thing and the only thing that matters to Jesus is that I quit looking at that I quit participating in all that activity and everything that's going. And first, I make sure I discipline myself to sit at his feet.
You know, it's an interesting thing, and I think as humans, individually, we do this. We picture ourselves one way, or we understand our intentions, and that in our mind should be obvious to all, even including the Lord, who I believe does know our intentions. But, you know, there's the idea of he should comply with our sincerity.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't always work that way.
No, but that's a great point. Right.
So I, like you, would like to consider myself to be Mary.
Yeah.
to be continually, because the scripture says she was continually
right.
at his feet, continually listening to his teachings. And I would like to think that I am also, even when I'm not reading, I'm listening to podcasts
Or thinking or meditating.
Right, yeah, right. Yeah, whatever it is. And the reality of it is, and even as you're saying this, I would even say the necessity that we do become like Martha.
Yeah.
And I think it does a couple things. One, I think it really just nakedly unveils, despite our best efforts, we are human.
Right.
And this isn't excusatory. It's just factual. We can't erase or do away with our humanistic nature as much as we'd like to, that sinful nature. It's what we are. And, and I know, be holy as I am holy and all that's right. Yeah. Okay. Easier said than done. That's what that ultimately that's it. That is, but I think it's a really special thing that you've been given and that you're sharing with us is that a new POV, a new point of view is that the idea to look down on Mary saying, gee, Jesus right there. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think McFly, think.
The reality of it is that we get wrapped up with so many things that are good. Preparing the way for the Messiah is good. Making a clean house so that Jesus is going to have a place to sit. He's going to have to sit on the laundry or, put the dogs away. What those in and of itself are not bad things. They are crucial things. They're essential things. And even as you're talking, what comes to my mind is functionality in ministerial situations.
Yeah.
Being involved with ministry, whether it's in or out of a church, there are functionary responsibilities that have to be done. The donuts have to be made in order to keep things moving. And that's just the fact. The lights have to stay on. People have to go and straighten out the chairs and, vacuum. And then there's the idea of business. The business has to be run and this, that, and the other. And I believe that there's a grace that God gives us. Like, as I'm hearing you read this and I'm allowing myself to be in that Martha position, which I'm sure I've been in over times that I'm able to realize, there's a certain grace that I'm feeling is extended. It isn't a sinful thing. This exchange is a lot different than when he tells Judas,
right,
go do what you must.
Right, you can leave now.
right. He's like, Mary chose the better thing.
Yeah. And he didn't shy away about,
no.
He didn't candy coat it. He basically let her know, you have a problem, and your problem is you're distracted.
Yeah.
And she was being distracted for him.
Right. And
that's what you're saying.
Well, yeah.
For him.
And even so, if we are looking at this, I'll focus on you and I's perspective, with the podcast at least. And this isn't a braggadocious thing. It's just a factual thing. And I'm not complaining, but it's like there's hours of prayer and research and study that goes into every week, even something that's silly and as much fun as I did in last week with Bigfoot. There's a lot of research.
Oh you pulled a lot of scripture out that, to be honest with you, a couple of them I would have never.
Right.
Ever.
And well, I discovered it too.
Yeah.
But there's research involved with that. There's like gathering articles. There's, this, that, and the other.
And what people don't know is that any article that you choose to use, many times you have to read through several to get the one you want. Oh. So it's not like you just read that article and said, oh, wow, I just fell right onto that. No, you have to go through the trash to pick out the gem.
Right.
So when we bring into the podcast 50 minutes or an hour of content and back up I don't even want to say opinion, because I try and stay away from opinion, but bring our point, right?
Yeah.
It takes hours of going through and gleaning and saying, no, this won't do. No, I don't believe that. No, it's like, it is an active involvement.
You're right. And I would even take it a step further. Just in the last several weeks, there was the release of 3 to 4 million Epstein files. There's this quagmire going on in Iran. There's domestic terrorist attacks. There's all this kerfuffle with ICE, with the border security. You have freaking meteorites exploding over. It's like the Strait of Hormuz. Gas is jacked up $2 a gallon. This, then the other. For those that are attentive, there's a lot of things with the great potentiality to distract us, and those things are, in my estimation, essential to understand a worldview that is focused on, as a Christian, how do we navigate these things? And then, even if I may be as bold as to say, as a Christian who has been entrusted with the responsibility, like the podcast, to ensure we are hearing from the Lord, to ensure that the perspectives that are given are the perspectives that He's showed us, that He shared with us, and that all takes a lot, and it can be overwhelming. It's so easy to be distracted. My mother-in-law passed away a couple months ago. My wife's been dealing with, as the executor, all the legality, all the stuff that goes with it, which is why she hasn't been with us, because she just doesn't have the bandwidth. And I believe, to a degree, a lot of that is purposeful. A lot of everything hitting us all at once is really designed to numb people out.
It is. Our podcast specifically, for years, we have studied and reported and done our podcast on and warned people about what the government could do, what the government has done, and then predicted what they will do. And it's happening. And so I think a lot of what has happened, even in my personal devotion to Jesus, is that in focusing on a very good thing, which is finding out and making sure people, Christians that we love, are made aware. And we've stumbled on things, and I just want to go through a list, a few, and you are the master at remembering these things. But in doing massive research and study, and then a podcast on MK Ultra, it's a government use through the CIA, is that I know that not only is there a desire, but I know there is active use in something that has been perfected, which, to be honest with you, is nothing more than brain control and mind manipulation. And so in knowing that, I understand that what has happened now is that Christians and non-Christians, citizens and non-citizens, it's just, if you are a human, you now qualify as a candidate to be absolutely bombarded with whatever story and narrative that the media, that does the outlets, that does the covering with video, which, again, now we've talked about AI. Now, I myself, half the time, don't know what is real. When I'm seeing it, when I'm hearing it, most of what I am hearing that is infuriating me, or that is causing me pause to say, I need to see if this event is right, is that first I have to verify it even is real. Yeah. And so we're living in a time where the very things that we talked about 2-3 years ago, about how it was going to be used and how it existed and how it was weaponized, is now being used. We talked about Project Bluebeam and the ability for holograms and to do projections about you thinking you see things and they're not there, but yet the CIA has it documented, and like we can know that. We talk about that, so that we're so to the point in time that I am so being distracted just on, is what I am seeing and what I am hearing even real?
Right. And is that not a manipulation?
Yes. Yeah. And so there is such a distraction that is out there. And we need to always desire and seek intimacy with Jesus, which is why it was so important for me to talk about this topic on this podcast, is because I don't just want to be a lone wolf that says, I want to know, Jesus, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to live? Right? Because if you want to be guided on what's acceptable in society, you are going to be bombarded and you are going to be influenced everywhere you turned around to lead you away from the desires of Jesus.
I want to read a scripture. I think that's in juxtaposition. Now, I might be incorrectly speculating on Martha.
Okay.
But I don't think so, because I think this is something specifically chosen by the author of this gospel as not a rebuke, but as a reminder for us to remain focused on one thing. Whereas if you read juxtapositionally in Matthew chapter 7, I'm going to read 21 to 23. Not everyone says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day when I judge them, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name and driven out demons in your name and done many miracles in your name? And then I will declare to them publicly, I never knew you. Depart from me. You are banished from my presence, you who acted wickedly, disregarding my commands. Now, I don't believe that Martha was in danger of this. I believe Martha was just lovingly corrected. But the danger, ultimately, and I think what we're talking about, and I can even tell you, I have actually been pondering this portion of scripture in Matthew for a little bit now, because with the busyness, with trying to observe the entire horizon in spite of my limited view of it, the great potential of doing these things in the name of ministry, doing these things in the name of trying to help people, there is a risk, I believe, of really losing oneself to where I make ministry or I make serving others the God in my life and not,
Mr. William,
not Jesus.
That was a great point. I went to Bible college for 4 years. I had very close friends, men and women, at like the age of 18 all the way through I graduated, where their fathers were pastors. And they were state overseers at that time. Now it's called bishops in the Church of God denomination. Some of them were actually like international positions. So if you're looking at that time clergy or spiritual royalty, they were that. Most of my friends at Bible college literally were what we call PK, preacher's kids.
Right, yeah.
And I know firsthand that my friends, a lot of them felt like the ministry itself took precedence over them as children in the family. A lot of them felt like if they needed daddy, he was there as long as a church member didn't call daddy. And if that happened, he was gone and we just had to deal with it. And so...
Or you had to take a ticket like at the meat counter to wait your turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so from personal experience, I know it's possible to allow your activities in the name of good, in the name of God, to become your God. And you lose intimacy and relationship in serving or in being busy. And that I really feel is what happened to me. Now, the beauty of self-correction and Jesus' correction is that you can quickly and swiftly cut that sickness and disease out and get healed and get it gone. And so I knew that there was something to be concerned about here. When I told you I'm not hearing anything, it's like that concerns me. I know a Tim thought and I know a God thought. And I know that this is me. And I want to be reassured in feeling close proximity in my heart with Jesus. And when that is not there, let me take one step even deeper.
Sure.
If I'm speaking to anyone who your desire is not that, like if you go to church and you're a Christian and you can listen to Christian music and because, the alternatives suck and like they're evil and bad and sing about bad things. And so you could develop a lifestyle that instead of going to the bar, instead of going to casinos to gamble, instead of going to these places that we look at and say, well, I'm a Christian, I don't do it. Instead, you go to church and it's a lifestyle. And instead of listening to rap, you listen to Brandon Lake and you love the words, but it's a lifestyle. So what I'm saying is I desire not a lifestyle with Jesus. I desire intimacy with Jesus. And wherever foundationally my intimacy with Jesus takes me, wherever he directs me, whatever he asks of me, it may be something different every day. It may be something new if it's fresh, if it's what he is dealing with me. I don't want to fall into a routine. I don't want to fall into a lifestyle. I don't want to fall into a schedule that is good, that is better than the alternative, but I am missing the most important thing, as Jesus said, and that is intimacy and closeness. I am not seeking teachings from man. I am not seeking sermons from men. I am not seeking bake sales and picnics, and I'm not seeking foot washing and looking forward to that so I can talk to people. I'm not looking forward to communion for the wrong reason, even though it's a good thing. Right. And this is where foundationally, even as a teenager, in confessing this, in professing this, because of such a young, arrogant, cocky age, like David was cocky, Joseph was cocky, bragging to his brothers about his dreams. He had the wrong attitude, right? It was a good thing. It was a real thing. It was going to happen one day. But he didn't have the right spirit because he was young and he was immature. Now, as they say, I once was young, but now I'm old. Right. And what I'm saying is if somebody is listening and they don't prioritize getting personal direction from Jesus, I say there's more to your Christian walk. I say Jesus is petitioning through us for people to say, wait a minute, I have a lifestyle, but I am kind of missing intimacy, another level, a quantum experience that taps into a level in my life.
You can place yourself in your own prison and not even realize it. Like, as I'm hearing what you're saying, and I can attest to this, like I was in a self-imposed prison of I only listen to Christian music for years. I only watched movies that were either Christian or that were rated PG or under. I wouldn't even go grocery shopping at stores that sold liquor. There are these things that it's like a Christian litmus test. Because I do A, B, and C, I am very pharisaitically regarded as holy. And the more I'm starting to realize the key that we need is self-discipline. We need to be self-disciplined to carry our cross. We need to be self-disciplined to spend time with the Lord in prayer, in reading. But when that I want to is replaced when I have to, you slowly remove Christ. And it's not him. You are removing him off the throne of your heart and feeling these other things, ministry, your piousness of only listening to Christian music or your whatever in your own prison you place those shackles on that somehow passes some kind of litmus test of, the community of Christians you're involved in, or the community of faith that you walk through. Those aren't, I don't believe, litmus tests that Christ puts on his followers. I believe it's love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself.
I believe that personal direction from Jesus that we're talking about is where we find our level of holiness.
Right.
It's what he is asking.
Sure.
And you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So I remember during this time, The Passion of the Christ came out, and I was like dead set. I'm not going to go see a rated R movie. Well, what was Passion of the Christ rated R?
Yeah.
And
it was pretty violent, Mr.
Right.
Williams.
But the conundrum there, you see what I'm saying, is that my piousness said I am better.
Yes.
And that's what it comes down to. I may only listen to Brandon Lake because the label is this, and the expectation because I lead this ministry, or I preach at church, or I have this podcast, or I've written Christian, whatever, right? The problem with that, if it isn't a place of conviction in our heart, and our obedience to Christ follows through with that, it doesn't mean anything. We're just doing something to look good on the outside.
And that's who he was talking to when he's speaking to "Depart from me, I never knew you."
Yes.
Those people you just described.
You whitewashed tombs.
Yeah.
You brood of vipers is what he calls people. And I know this is kind of going to an extreme, but when I look at Mary and Martha, I think that the choice for Martha is to either go down this path of, I need everything precise and I need everything pristine because Jesus is here and we're going to worship him and we're going to serve him and we're going to this, and it has to be perfect. And there's certainly importance to that. I'm not minimalizing that. But the potentiality that Martha has is to continue down that road in a pharisaical manner where it is simply, I am doing this because the physical requirement is a lot easier than
how it looks.
And how it looks, thank you, is in many ways a lot easier than the spiritual self-discipline. To whereas I could say, hey, I personally don't convicted that I only have to listen to Christian music, but there are certain things that God's like, I don't want you listening to that. And then when I start to go there, my conscience becomes seared, and that's when the scripture says, "Those who know to do right but do it not, those are committing sins." And that's the gray area that we're talking about.
And that was his definition, to let every man work out his own salvation. Yes. That's what you're saying. And that's what Jesus is saying in that, is that if you prioritize your intimacy of time and you make that decision, and I'm going to share something with people. This is from my experience, and this is from the continuance of this story with Mary and Martha. I'm just going to be real with you.
Do it.
When you prioritize intimacy with Jesus and you pursue closeness, in some ways it will cost you more than other people are willing to pay. And I'll show you what I mean. This position that Mary chose at the feet of Jesus, that proximity of intimacy and deepness of closeness, eventually that inspired her to say, it is not enough. I desire to give more. And you know what she did? Not Martha, not Lazarus, not anyone else. She took 1 year's wage and in expressing a quantum level of intimacy, a tapped into higher level. She purchased expensive oil that took 1 year's wage, and got that bottle. And in the position of intimacy it led her to a deeper position, which is now this is going to cost you something. So I'm worshiping you at your feet. I'm worshiping you with my total attention. I'm admonishing you, but I love you so much, it's not enough. What more can I do? And she was led to take that money and to buy that oil. And she gave of herself in the moment of worship by pouring it on her feet. And what did Judas think about that? See, he wasn't seeking intimacy, so he became irate because he says, do you not realize that that's a year's worth of wage? Do you not realize what we could do for the ministry if we would have sold that instead of you wasting it on his feet? We could have sold it and used it to market us, to reach the people, to preach the gospel. And Jesus says, this is the most beautiful, this is the most exorbitant worship I have ever experienced in my life. And so when you prioritize intimacy and you seek it and you do it, in that moment, you will want to do more for him. Not because it's a rule, not because it's a teaching, not because of how it looks, but the closer that I get to Jesus, the more appreciative I am of what he has already done for me. Like, that's the reason I so want to hear from him to do what he desires me to do, because nobody else I know left a kingdom like heaven and came to earth and died for me when I was an enemy. Jesus did that. What more right does he have than anyone ever to have that oil poured on him?
Well, and even it meant so much to him that he said, wherever this gospel is preached, the mention of this woman's name will occur. But when you're able to move the master's heart in such a profound way that he says, wherever it is taught about me, it will be mentioned about her act. And I mean, it's overwhelming. And
we're mentioning it right now, man.
Well, right, exactly. And I just think we're at this really weird junction in world history. You know, we're hearing about UFOs. We have presidents and former presidents talk about, going back to the Project Blue Beam.
Absolutely.
We're seeing all these things, and any accuracy that we've had in this podcast is birthed out of our relationship with Christ.
Yes.
Because there's nothing unique or clever about us that we're able to kind of snap our fingers and come up with this stuff, right?
No.
And I think it's good to be in moments like this where we center ourselves, because I even need this myself, just the responsibility that we accept. Like this weekend, I co-lead my men's ministry at church. Mm-hmm. Like it was my month to teach, so I had to get that ready. Then the next day, I taught Sunday school. Then all this stuff is just like, okay, this, and this, and I'm not complaining because I love it. I understand that's a large portion of what I'm supposed to do with my life, to steward the gift I've been given. But there's also that point, like you're saying, Tim, where purpose gets skewed to where that mindset of Judas, like, do you know what we could have done with this, for the ministry or that pharisaical, that's the danger. Like Martha being busy and trying to make things nice for the Lord, I want to believe was from a sincere place. Like at that moment, that was probably what she knew to be devoted.
And maybe even felt like that was her gift.
Maybe she had the gift of service or hospitality, right? And she was exercising that God-given gift. But the real distinction you're saying, if I'm picking up what you're putting down, is we need to understand the moments where the Lord's just saying, I just want to hang out with you. Yeah. And everything should, stem from that. And,
well, I have one more thing to say, and then I'm ready to wrap this up with a bow. I would like to give an example of the danger of not allowing intimacy to be the driving force in your Christian walk. I am the example. And speaking from experience, I know when I was 15 And I know when I entered a covenant with God, and I've shared it before, and of course, there was the conversion, there was salvation, there was being born again, there was that moment where I made the decision that I wanted him to forgive me for my sins, but I always recognized the value of Jesus and what he did and the depth of that sacrifice. And I made the decision that I have these baseball scholarships, I have these opportunities, I have these areas, I'm choosing my life, I'm young, my road is uncharted. I have to choose what I'm going to do, what I'm going to be. And I willingly and knowingly, as a 15-year-old, and then really my senior year of high school in a Christian school, I didn't just make that command. I started to enter into living that life. And that was, I entered a covenant with Jesus, that my life was his. Whatever profession, whatever direction, wherever he wanted me to go, whatever state, whoever he wanted me to marry, whatever he wanted me to be, I set aside my desire. And I went to Bible college and I began the journey for a degree. I met my wife there and we got married, and we were married for 15 years and we had 2 wonderful children. And somewhere along the line of graduating, being a youth pastor, running a Christian school, evangelizing, traveling all over, preaching, teaching, the honor of that life became a burden. And it was not the honor and privilege of what I get to do in my covenant. It was waking up looking at, oh my God, this is what I have to do. And you had said that. So I began to devalue my wife that God gave me. I began to devalue my life that God gave me of ministry, of full-time ministry and service to him. And somewhere along the line, I started to make decisions and choices that were out of covenant with Jesus, that were not what he required of me. It was not what my covenant with him demanded, that I willingly entered, and what I used to ask Jesus for, the honor, the opportunity, the privilege, those things now became the burden, the yoke, and the responsibility, and what I have to do. And so in devaluing my, at that time, wife, and devaluing my life of service, he took that from me. That's a natural response. In reality, I would like to say I threw that away. It's not like he took it. It's a natural thing, Mr. William, that happens to you. When you begin to value the wrong thing, and when you begin to devalue the right thing, the consequences are you will lose what's best for you, and you will gain what's worse for you. And that's what happened. And so when I sit on the other end of this mic for people that are listening to what I'm talking about and say, I don't even understand what's so important about what you're describing, it is that the honor of serving Jesus is the greatest honor that I have in my life. And that viewpoint and that perception of my relationship with him is corrected again, but it came through great mercy and great grace that he extended to me in my life that has allowed me to revalue everything about my life. I now know what to value, and I know now what to devalue. And in the situation of Mary and Martha, Martha put value on Jesus, but a higher value on activity. Mary put the highest value on Jesus. Activity, wait. Busyness, wait. This is what's important. And so my end to this podcast is that don't be like me. Don't do what I did. Don't, because you will only be able to maintain and keep what is really valuable for so long before you lose it by throwing it away if you don't nurture intimacy with Jesus, because my intimacy with Jesus is what gives me a clear perception of what really has value. And when I started to let busyness take away my intimacy, even though my busyness was geared for him, to represent him, to serve people, I lost intimacy somewhere. And when that happens, your perception and your perspective changes. And what used to be an honor is no longer an honor. What used to be a passion is not a passion. And I know that. Like, I don't have to read this story. I lived it. And it's a painful end. And thank God for his restoration. And thank God for his forgiveness, his mercy, and his love, and his patience that allowed me to be crushed enough, to be broken enough, to wake up and say, wait a minute, this isn't the best. This is not the covenant life that I entered into. And I'll end it with this. The thing about Jesus is he will not allow you out of a covenant. What people don't understand about covenants is they're unbreakable. You don't get out of a covenant. A covenant is not a contract that can be ripped up or that can be bought out or negotiated out. A covenant that is sealed by you and Jesus, he doesn't give up on you. He never quits. He says no. Like, this is not what we agreed to. And so I'm going to remove a little bit here of protection. And I hope it's enough. Nope, that wasn't enough. Okay. I am pursuing you. I am chasing you. I'm coming after you. I will wake you up and you will once again see who you are in me. And that is the story of the result of losing intimacy. It can go all the way to the end of that kind of destruction.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I like the moments here when we get like personal, because I think people are able to relate and personalize it, because I really don't know what people think about you or I. My perception is that they probably think at least I'm a dumb knocker half the time. But thank you for sharing that. And and the only thing I would just say is, like, this Sunday morning, because I don't drive, I got dropped off at church early. And I had like an hour or so I had to wait before our Sunday school class. So I took my headphones and I took my iPod and I just listened to worship music and walked around the area where I was going to be teaching and just reconnected. And it felt so good. Just felt like, thank you. And I'm just going to say this, and I'd like you to pray out this episode that, it's not like this grueling thing. Just come back to the Lord. Whatever that process of restoration looks like, it's going to be worth more in the end than just staying on the sidelines, staying, right outside of the peripheral. It might just be take us some time and recentering and just praying, getting in the Word. Or there might be a more restorative process, but whatever it is, it's going to be worth it. So go ahead, if you don't mind, pray us out.
Yeah, that right there, that was a great thought, because in desiring intimacy, Jesus will reveal us when it's a sincere, repentive heart that is seeking. He will reveal to us what it is that is the hindrance.
Yeah.
Through prayer, through I'm not trying to get anything from you. I'm not asking you to answer any prayer. I'm not using you like a genie. I just want to say, Jesus, I desire to be closer. I want to feel pure. I want this guilt gone. I want to have forgiveness, and I want to have more of you. And you will know. And that's what I mean when I say the intimacy.
Yeah.
Is that, do you want to lose anxiety? Do you want to lose depression? Do you want to lose worry? I mean, Jesus brings peace and cleans us too. Like when we are really forgiven, that condemnation spirit leaves. I mean, life is so much different in covenant with Jesus.
Yeah.
And that comes through intimacy.
Yeah.
It's the whole package. So
Yeah.
you were right in saying that, but let's pray. Jesus, I thank you for speaking to us. I thank you that the concern of not hearing, the concern of not being led, and just not simply experiencing the level of intimacy that we desire is a beautiful thing, that we would recognize, wait a minute, there is something here that has separated. I don't have clarity. I don't have wisdom. I don't have understanding. I just seem cloudy. I seem like separated. I want to have that. And Lord, I pray that for people that have never experienced what I've described, and for people that have had that they would once again experience a level of confidence, a level of love, peace, a sound mind, a level of feeling pure and not dirty and not guilty, and a level of peace without anxiety and without depression, but being calm and having joy even in tough moments. Like, this is the formula for our life that you desire for us. This is what you talk about in your word, that even though persecution is going to come, and Lord, it is, that we remain strong, that we endure to the end, and that we stand. God, I want to stand with you. I choose you. I choose your side. I choose your love. I choose your authority. I choose your power. I choose every attribute that you have to walk in that and to live in that. And I pray that everyone that is listening would desire that, and that you would grant them that prayer, and that their level of intimacy would grow and would increase with you, because they have sincere hearts that are seeking you, and they call out to you, and you will not have a deaf ear, but you will answer, and they will know that you are God. Lord, I thank you and I praise you, and I ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you for sharing. I think this is a good starting place for myself, and hopefully a lot of people that are going to hear this, and just getting back to basics with the Lord. And I would say, whether you're a pastor of a church or have a denomination, or you're just a regular Joe like you or I, the position isn't what is important. What is important is our relationship.
Jesus has no bench players on his team. Everyone that participates in Christian life, we're all starters. You know, I make that comparison, having played baseball was for many, many years, was that on certain teams, there were just dudes that knew that if somebody gets hurt or if we're winning by a lot, I'll get in. Those are bench players. And Jesus doesn't have that.
I was one of those.
I don't doubt it.
Thank you. At any rate, we want to thank you guys for tuning in again this week. Please share, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review. All of that helps. But share this. I think people are going to be encouraged by this. Just kind of get this out and allow conviction in our lives to do its thing and run its course. And you can find us anywhere podcasts are. Just search Flawedcast CLE, Apple, Spotify, Breaker, Anchor.fm. You can find us on the video platform Rumble. That is under Flawed Inc. You can also find us on the Project Mockingbird social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Getter, Gab, Parler. We are also now on Threads. That's all under Flawed Inc. In the description of this episode, there's a link to pick up a copy of my book, Smith's Heart of Man Repair Manual, and our email is flawedinccle@gmail.com. Questions, comments, or concerns, go ahead and send us an email. But with that being said, we will see you guys next week.